Did FloGrappling arrest Craig Jones? What's up, you alley cats? Welcome back to the FloGrappling Show, aka the worst show on the internet. As always, I'm the kamikaze kid from Kansas. We got Joey Gilps right there, Uncle Reed right there, and then Big Slack Barrett on the ones and twos. And just to kick things off, what do you guys think of that new nickname I got?
Kamikaze kid from Kansas?
That's pretty sick, huh?
Dang, you've just been had that one in the pocket for a long time? Or?
Yeah, I had a big alliteration I was going to do to you guys about Brazil. The episode where I returned, we didn't end up doing it because we had Elijah on and stuff. I didn't do it, but I had a big alliteration. I can't remember all of it, but it was like the kamikaze kid has came home to something after conquesting I had this long alliteration. I was just going to drop it out of nowhere.
Planning something on us.
Yeah, little bits and whatnot. But what have you guys been up to this weekend? Before I tell the people what we're going to talk about, I want to remain a mystery for them for a little bit, and then I'll preview the show. But first, what have you guys been up to? You got to check in on the homies.
I had to fix my fence this weekend. The HOA has been getting on me super hard on my fence, so I had to do some work outside.
Brutal HOA type of guy. Dang, dude.
Domestication points right there.
Yeah. Joe, what about you?
I was chilling. What were you up to?
Just mainly conditioning your hair and whatnot?
It's getting up there, right?
I was just hanging out.
Out there.
Slack, you were in California, right? You just got back. You were probably chilling after California.
Yeah, I was in California last week covering some Worlds stuff for AOJ and Atos. Lots of cool videos coming out in the next week, so stay tuned for those. And then, just kind of catching up on some sun tanning and some cool dips. I went to Deep Eddy for the first time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, not quite as cool as, Barton Springs.
Barton Springs is
now I've been there, and now I know the differences and stuff. Cooled off a
Yeah.
little bit. It's getting hot out here, so.
Yep. I went to Barton Springs Saturday. That's always the best spot. If anybody's visiting Austin, any of you jiu-jitsu fans out there, if you make a little jiu-jitsu, vacation, you come train at Austin at all the gyms you watch on YouTube and Instagram and stuff, you got to hit Barton Springs, Jump off the diving board, do a cool flip. Hopefully people will cheer for you or boo you if it falls flat, but that's up to you and your athleticism on that springboard. But yeah, in today's show, we're going to talk about a few things with you guys, all right? We're going to talk a little Craig Jones, everyone's favorite topic. We're going to talk a little Craig Jones, so, open up your ear holes nice and wide, I guess. And then we're going to talk about some of these WNO 28 announcements. Obviously, WNO 28's coming up soon, June 13th, so we're going to talk about that. But then we're going to dive into IBJJF Worlds. The World Championship is basically here at this point. It's almost time to kick off the World Championship. So we're going to talk about who's in, some of the storylines we've been following, get you all up to speed and all of that. But World stuff is about to be in full swing. We'll talk more about the Road to Worlds plan also. So any fans of Road to Worlds out there, we'll tell you kind of what the plan is so you can hear it here first. But it's time to talk about the truth regarding Craig Jones. All right? I'll just start off with this one simple question. Did FloGrappling arrest Craig Jones?
No, the Austin City Police Department did.
Yeah, true.
We had nothing to do with it.
Nah, so there's been a lot of stuff going around on the internet about this situation. Obviously, this video went super viral on, I believe, Tuesday. It was, right? Monday.
Yeah.
Okay, so on Monday.
Last week, a week from me today. Yeah.
Okay, so we've had 1 week to really digest all this. But on Monday, FloGrappling's Instagram account posted, a little thing showing Craig being escorted out by security. Now, first of all, I want to address this. A lot of people in the comments are saying, no way 2 women could escort out Craig. You guys are doing the security guard dirty. One's a man, one's a woman. So I feel bad for this guy.
Shout out the security guys for being good sports.
Yes, that is actually the security at our office building. So that is the actual security and everything. Craig was in handcuffs, a.k.a. zip-tied handcuffs. A lot of people saying he wasn't. He was. But the video was fake.
We got you.
We got you guys.
We got you a little bit.
Yeah. I feel like there was a 50-50 reception. A lot of people saying, if this is true, I'm canceling FloGrappling. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. A lot of people got. Some people were hip to it. They knew, obviously this is just some Craig-style marketing that leaked over into FloGrappling. But yeah, the video is fake. Obviously, Craig was in our office, wanting to talk with Flo, wanting to work on a working partnership with Flo in some ways. I don't know how much we can disclose about.
We'll get there. We're trickling this stuff out. I think there's a lot of news going to be coming out here in the next few weeks about our relationship with Craig. Don't want to kind of spoil it all right now, but yeah, at the very least, the video was fake. Like Craig says, anything from the CCTV footage, people will believe. And man, did he, that was pretty accurate. Everybody really believed it.
Yeah, if you slap a security camera filter on any video, people will believe it. And, that one, obviously, there's tons of threads about it. There's articles about it. Kind of the jiu-jitsu media was blowing up in some ways about this video involving Craig. But yeah, that was a staged video. We did not arrest Craig. Obviously, we're not going to arrest Craig. I think depending on which countries he arrives in, he might get arrested. But
we got nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Do not fly.
Yeah.
If I could just say, as somebody who is just now learning that all of this was fake,
we kept Joe out of the loop.
I do feel betrayed, and I'm canceling my Flow subscription because of that.
Sorry about that, Joe. Damn.
I was just going to say, and maybe you were going to say a similar thing, that involving Craig Jones and CJI, this is something that I know there's been a lot of narratives ever since CJI came about in ADCC 2024. A lot of narratives about our relationship with Craig and our willingness to cover Craig or CJI and all of that. And to be honest, it's a lot of the community kind of took narratives and ran with them. And Craig's really good at what he does. And, in that instance, Craig knew it was beneficial to kind of keep amplifying that, to do all that. But the reality is, we never were we're not working with Craig, we're not working with CJI. That was never the thing. We've always kind of maintained some level of relationship with Craig and relationship with CJI, and at least in behind the scenes discussions going on with those guys, And so now it's kind of came around, and here we are in whatever month it is, May 2025, and now it makes sense, and we were able to keep talking, keep working with Craig on stuff, and now obviously there's some big stuff on the horizons with Flo and Craig, but it was never kind of as split as I think the jiu-jitsu community thought maybe it was, with us and B Team, or us and Craig and us and CJI. And, maybe I'm peeling back the curtain too much, honestly, for you guys, and letting you know too much of all that stuff. But it was never really as drastic, I feel as people think maybe it was. It was kind of always still a somewhat working thing, where we were, in talks and all that. I don't know if you want to speak to that more, Reed, or if you have anything else to say.
Just obviously, what Craig has done over the past year has been incredible and brought a lot of eyes to the sport. And we've always had a great relationship with Craig. He did the Who's Next reality show with us back then. If you haven't seen the Who's Next reality show, go check that out. That was a lot of fun we had with Craig. And obviously he went off and did his thing with CJI, and it was kind of CJI versus ADCC. So, take what you will with that. But for the longest time, we want to work with Craig Jones. It's we've been trying to work with Craig Jones, and I'm just excited that it's finally kind of we're building more bridges and less walls. It's we genuinely love jiu-jitsu. We watched CJI, we watched Cade versus Andrew and all that. It's we know how powerful this stuff is, and it's just exciting that Craig's coming back into the fold and got a lot of plans. Buckle up, it's going to be crazy. But it should be fun.
Yeah. So obviously, everyone at home, just I know you're going to, but stay tuned on all the social media and stuff. Don't touch any grass. Don't go out and do any real world stuff. Just stay locked in the social media realm. And there'll be some new big stuff dropping soon that eventually will kind of explain more of what this partnership, what this relationship really is going to look like. And so eventually everyone will kind of get up to speed on all that and everything. But that's the brass tacks on the Craig situation.
And he did shatter the poster, and I genuinely didn't know that it was going to shatter like that. I didn't know that was going to happen. So pretty authentic reaction from me, I want to say.
And some people were saying dang, dude, the George protected him or something. No, Craig's knee got cut up from that, to be honest. We had to go.
There's blood. Yeah. That was not well planned or anything like that. That just kind of happened.
So. But that's the FloGrappling you guys have come to know and love, is a slightly unplanned but somewhat on the path in the right direction. Sometimes we stray, sometimes we realign, you know. But even the greatest of all time at maintaining the path, like Musashi and these other enlightened masters in the world, they as well stray from the path. You know, Musashi said, when you found yourself strayed from the path, you have to retreat to the mountains and isolate yourself and re-find yourself, and then you'll find the path. And so
that's what we've been doing.
yeah, that's what we've been doing. We've been in
That's about it.
We've been in the mountains, dude. But
Cues from Musashi. So
Yeah.
that's what we're here for.
yeah, that's what it's all about, dude. But yeah, that's my favorite book, Musashi by Yuji Ashikawa. If anyone wants to read that, you know, go ahead. We'll add that to the book club. But so that's the Craig news for you guys right there. The most we can say right now, but more coming soon. But now let's get into something we can talk a little more about. You know, some of the stuff we know some of the details for, but not quite all of them, which aligns with most of the stuff we got going on. And that's WNO 28 on Friday, June 13th. Like I told you guys in a previous episode, this might be a spooky card, dude. It's Friday the 13th. I'm shaking in my boots, man. I'm scared, but we got a big match announcement. This is huge for the heavyweight division. The heavyweight belt is officially on the line. Go ahead and roll that. You can see it here. Reed cooked this thing up. He's been in the lab. He's been in the Reed cave, as we call it, for this massive heavyweight announcement where we're going to see Felipe Pena going up against Luke Griffith for the heavyweight belt on Who's Number One. What do you guys think of this one? You guys stoked for this?
Hard not to be stoked, for sure, for sure. You know, obviously Luke coming off a huge win at the last Who's Number One. He was in 127 against Victor Hugo, so his stock's super, super high right now. And then, of course, I think just a guy that we think is you know, has been there for a long time, has been at the top of this game for a long, long time, deserves a crack at the belt, Felipe Pena. These two guys just fought at the ADCC World Championship, so it is a rematch, but I have a feeling it's going to be a completely different match, if I had to say.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, like you said, this is a rematch from ADCC Finals, but with Luke coming back and showing those like very specific improvements in his conditioning, which was such a big issue for him in those finals, I think that there's a lot of optimism on his side. This is going to be a completely new match. Then you have the aspect where this is a heavyweight title fight. This is our first heavyweight title fight without Gordon, who has retired and stepped down, without him involved. But he's still kind of, the prospect of him looms large, right? This is his chief rival and his chief heavyweight student kind of meeting for the belt. So I think that's really interesting too. And these are just two super talented heavyweights. These are not push, shove, collar tie club heavyweights. These are guys who get in there, do a ton of jiu-jitsu, big, strong dudes, going to be going at it. I can't wait. This is going to be an awesome, awesome fight. Could not make a better heavyweight fight right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I feel like when they fought at ADCC World Championships, that was probably like the biggest we've seen Luke. Like that's probably physically like that's probably when we saw him bulk up. You know, it was the over 99. It was like the ultra heavy division. So he bulked up really big, and then now compared to where he was when he fought Victor Hugo, he was like 220.
He was like 30, 40 pounds less.
Yeah,
I think he was 220.
So it's like we really have seen a transformation in Luke in these past, 8-9 months or whatever, from that match to where he is now. He's really going that, being slimmer, being quicker, being faster and all that stuff. So you're really going to see a kind of different Luke, I feel like, this time around.
He really shines on WNO too, I feel like. That's where we've seen his
4-0.
4-0. 3 of them were very quick submissions, and then that big win over Victor Hugo, which is, in my opinion, the best we've ever seen him look overall.
Yeah.
Just got his black belt. I think this is going to be his black belt debut, which is also pretty cool.
That is sick. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, going to be an awesome one.
It's crazy to think that this is Luke Griffith's black belt debut. Yeah. But I think the most telling thing, and this is kind of what you were saying, Reed, is that Victor Hugo match, because like you said, this was like, I don't know how big Luke was at ADCC, but he was huge. Like he's just
easy.
Yeah, like easy 250 plus. And he kind of addressed it. Like he told us, I think he weighed in 227, if I remember right, at WNO against Victor, because I think Victor weighed 272. And like I was like kind of messing with him because like I like get all the weights and then we do the weigh-in show thing or whatever. And I was like, oh, dude, no, like, you guys are pretty much the same weight. And he's like, oh, for real? I was wondering because I was standing next to him and I was like, yeah, like you were 227 and he was 272. Those are kind of the same numbers, just rearranged, which obviously that's way bigger. But he kind of specifically said like, he was addressing the cardio thing. Like he was like, I realized I don't do well if I like am huge and come out and like don't submit a guy immediately. Like we've seen him in his previous WNO matches. He comes out and he got quick submissions in his first 3 Who's Number One matches. And then with Victor, it was kind of similar to the Felipe Pena ADCC match, where at ADCC we saw Luke come out and do some great stuff right off the rip against Felipe. But then Philippe was ultimately able to turn the tide and get the win late against Luke, which could be contributed to him being so big and losing cardio because of that. And then Victor, he addressed that, and he won that match by Victor coming out, looking great, and then ultimately turning the tides and winning the match late against Victor. So it does feel like he's addressed the thing that caused him to lose to Philippe. You know, obviously there's a lot of jiu-jitsu involved, but from that physical aspect, it feels like he's addressed that. So I am curious how this one's going to go, you know, if he is going to be able to keep riding that new style he's bringing where he can win matches late.
I don't know if any of you guys, I don't think any of you guys were there, but after Luke beat Big Dan at the ADCC semifinals, I remember following him to the back, and he was like kind of getting helped to the back, if I remember correctly, by one of the training partners who was there. And I was like, hey, man, you know, if I could just talk to you about being in the finals whenever you catch your breath, no problem. No, he like laid down on the ground for, it felt like 12, 15 minutes before he was like able to like talk to me. And I was like, when he was finally like, okay, we'll just do the interview right now. He couldn't even sit up to do it. He did it from like laying down. I have the
prone position, huh?
Yeah.
He did from supine guard.
Supine guard. So that interview exists anywhere. And I remember thinking as I was doing it, I was like, I don't think I should post an interview where he can't open his eyes or sit up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is somewhere. He was exhausted.
A 2-day grind,
he was
exhausted. For sure. And he had some tough matches. Obviously, he had some great matches there. But yeah, for your fourth match of the weekend now to be Felipe Pena, like it's got to take a toll on anybody, right? And so you're going to see both of them fresh now. You know, and
that was after Felipe had faced off. He had the really bad back injury, and he had faced off with Gordon.
Kind of slammed him. Yeah, and he fought Gordon. So the both of them really were feeling it for sure. You know, so maybe we didn't see the most accurate representation of that match, but obviously Felipe got the submission and an incredible victory for him to become ADCC champion. And honestly, man, I still feel like we undervalue Felipe Pena.
I think so too, dude. I think there's a few guys right now who have claims to being the best grapplers on the planet, and I feel like it's not being talked about enough, to be honest. I think that's one thing I like about the heavyweight belt being back on the line. Obviously, I'm going to miss Gordon. Like I think Gordon is must watch jiu-jitsu every time he takes on the mat. He's an anomaly. There's no one really, in my opinion, equivalent to Gordon whenever he's competing. So it sucks to kind of him to be in this place with his health or whatever where he's not able to compete and he is like, you know, letting go of the title. But I do think there's like some positives in that kind of negative of kind of Gordon maybe being out of the scene for a bit, where there's a positive where now some of these guys are getting their true like claim to the number one spot. That's maybe it's like, I guess they're due that, whether it be Philippe, like obviously this is how it shaked out and the heavyweight title is going to be Philippe versus Luke. So we're going to see a new heavyweight champ on June 13th. But like the rest of the guys in this division, it could have shaken up a few different ways. Like Nicky Rod could have a claim for this also. So I feel like there's already kind of this list of contenders just like waiting in the wings where whoever comes out of this on top, Philippe or Luke, has an immediate match waiting in. Nicky Rod, I know Luke just beat Victor Hugo, but like Victor Hugo arguably is the best grappler on the planet also. Like, you know, jiu-jitsu is different than other sports like MMA or, you know, whatever else where you can take losses and it doesn't impact you that greatly. Like, look at Nicky Rod, lost to Victor on Fight Pass and then comes out and beats Kynan, the double gold ADCC champ, another guy who's arguably the best grappler on the planet. So it's like a few of these contender matches, or even just like say WNO 29, we have immediate defense from Luke or Philippe against Nicky Rod, and then Kynan and Victor Hugo are fighting, and then it's like, all right, well that guy fights the loser of Philippe Luke, and it's like the heavyweight division is in a great place in my opinion. I think we're going to see
Josh
Saunders,
Big Dan, you know, there's
Mason kind of running around. You know,
there's a bunch of guys that this could be real interesting going forward.
100%, dude. And then, you know, it makes me wonder. It makes me ponder. Yeah, Marigali's just kind of, we're waiting for him to get back from the shoulder stuff, Pixley. It makes me wonder, too, where do we go with some more absolute type of matches in the future also, you know? Is that on the horizon for who's number one? Like, anybody been in Uncle Ricky's ear and kind of asking him, you know, like, I don't know. It's like on this same card, we're obviously going to see Mika Galvao going up against Jonatas Gracie. And this is Mika going up a weight. And he's the current 170-pound WNO champion going up against the current 185-pound champion, Jonatas Gracie. Two super game dudes. But, like, you know, I don't know. Winner of this one, do we start mixing it up? Throw some 185ers against some heavyweights? I don't know.
Mika try to go for 3 belts?
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
You know, depending on what happens.
True.
I feel like Pato's always down to just fight
Yeah,
literally
true.
anybody.
Yeah.
to be
Yeah, you
honest.
get Pato in there.
Who did Pato end up fighting at ADCC?
Kynan.
Kynan? Yeah. We run that back. Pato versus Kynan.
That was a tough draw. There was a
Yeah,
couple other
that's a real
places in that
first round.
bracket.
Absolutely.
Like Declan versus Baby Shark also.
Yeah. That
But-
was the same quarter. That was the same. Like,
Yeah.
and then they had to fight. Yeah.
But I think with who's number one, all the divisions are in a great place, but like specifically that heavyweight division for me is kind of super stoked. What else have we announced for this WNO? I'm trying to remember.
Felipe Andrew and Declan Moody has been announced, and we have announced Kyle Chambers and Victor Silverio.
Yeah, so a couple sick ones there. I think Declan versus Felipe Andrew, that one is a potential show stealer in my opinion. Show the screen real quick to the people, the producers in the booth. We got Amanda and Greg back there producing today. Nikki, we said Nikki, dude, freaking hit the road, pal. No, zoom it back out. I wanted to show that ad. Because this is a good deal, dude. Whole lot of value menu at Taco Bueno, bro.
Bro, the
That
Taco
that
Bell
is
next to my
sick.
house just
Yeah.
Don't bury the lead.
We got to talk about this real quick. Is this legit? If you order online right now at Taco Bueno, you can get the whole lot of value menu. You can get a party burrito, a party taco, or a fajita chicken roll up for $169 each. I just found my lunch plans, pal.
Clear. This adds a lot of value to spending some time just browsing FloGrappling.
Yeah.
Online, all right.
Yeah, you
Check out some articles. Come
Yeah.
for the article, stay for the great deal.
Come on,
Right.
that fajita chicken roll up for $1.69. That's a steal.
Oh man,
That's a steal.
I'll take two of each, pal. I'm bumping up to super heavy after I get done with this whole lot of value menu. This thing is sick, bro. But whoa, we got a new one, just a different version of the same ad.
Chicken roll.
All right, cool. So any potential sponsors out there that are looking for a little ad placement on Flow, you can see how great of a placement you get right here on the side and everything. I'm gonna have to remove my ad blocker so I can start seeing these deals.
Slack, what do you think about this this heavyweight clash then?
I'm stoked, man. I was really interested to see just seeing Luke make adjustments. Like what I love watching people make adjustments over the course of like multiple tournaments and when you follow the sport closely and pay attention, you really do get to see like all these adjustments get made. And there's the weight, which we've talked about, but also just like a huge amount of mental preparation and work to go in and it's just like the pressure of having Victor Hugo on your back for like 5 minutes, and that's a test. That's a test. That's like, you're down. Like there's every reason for you to lose at this point. But he talked a lot about it in his post-fight interview, just about like digging deep, and he's gotten the reps at being mentally prepared to adjust. And I think that says a lot about what we might see in this rematch. I think we're going to see a totally new Luke.
I agree. I think he feels much more confident. I think even throughout his 2024,
He's still so young too.
Yeah, he was a little like kind of back, you know what I mean? And then he would take a weird loss to like Dorian Oliveras or Wagner Hocher or somebody, even though Wagner's obviously so good, and even Dorian's obviously very good still. But like these guys are half the size of him. He should not be dropping these matches. And it just felt like just not quite sure who he really was. But now it just feels like he's turned a corner. Even dealing with him in the media leading up to the last WNO, it just felt like he was so much looser. He was so much more confident.
Well, in the black belt, right? Like
That's
it
part of
takes
it.
a lot to get belts from that squad,
Yeah.
And for sure, he beat Victor Hugo. Like I think the black belt is obviously warranted, but I couldn't help but wonder, like, is this about how he won? Like he didn't submit him, obviously, but like he showed black belt level heart in that match to come back from being behind and then dominate the second half of the match. So
For sure.
And obviously, recently, Felipe Pena's had big wins on the Who's Number One stage as well. Beat Rafael Lovato Jr., beat Heisem, beat Declan. I think there's another one in there that I can't quite remember off the top of my head. But obviously, Felipe's been very active on the Who's Number One. Oh, beat Nicky Rod. Nicky Rod. That's the other one. Yep. So he's coming off a big win.
In Costa Mesa.
Yeah, in Costa Mesa. So, Felipe's had a lot of big wins on the Who's Number One stage as well. So time for him to potentially get a belt here as well. I think him kind of beating back this next generation, which like it seems like he's been doing for 10 years, is like beating back that next generation. And here's just one more guy. I think it's crazy to think that it'll be his black belt debut too, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, that's wild, But it just speaks to how young in the game Luke is and how we still have not seen the crest of the wave in terms of Luke. Like we will still see the best Luke yet to come. Like he's still getting better, So incredible match. Really excited for it.
Yeah, so kind of like we already mentioned, though, these other two, Declan Moody versus Felipe Andrew and Kyle Chambers versus Victor Silverio. Felipe Andrew, I can't think of a lot of Felipe Andrew no-gi outside of CJI, right? Where obviously, like I don't know if he's done IBJJF no-gi Worlds or anything in the past, but you know, the gi guy turned no-gi, you know, Felipe Andrew. And obviously he had an incredible performance at CJI, you know, and that was sick to see. I think Felipe Andrew has some of the sneakiest, sickest jiu-jitsu out there, you know. I think he does some of the coolest stuff once he's on. And so I am excited to see him make his Who's Number One debut. I know Declan has said before that he can pass any guard and all that, you know. He's an incredible guard passer, and I think he's going to have a great test here against Felipe Andrew. It does feel like one where I would assume Felipe Andrew is just going to pull guard and then Declan's going to get a play on top. Maybe not. Maybe he's been working his wrestling and stuff, and he'll want to play top. But I think that's going to be a really sick one. There's also like no one in the game who's a better guy than Declan. So it's just like I like when he's involved because it's just like just a good dude, you know?
Yeah, Felipe's got that really sneaky, slick straight ankle lock that he really catches a lot of people with. I remember he submitted Kynan one year at Pans or Worlds with that straight ankle lock. So that's something definitely that he's got a tool in the arsenal you got to watch out for.
100%. And I feel like we don't see straight ankle guys who just aren't awesome at other leg locks as well.
Yeah.
They just happen to be a straight ankle lock guy, maybe because they're a gi guy.
Yeah.
But you know, once you're a leg locker, you're a leg locker. And I think in a lot of ways this is obviously not his no-gi debut, but this is his super fight debut, and this is a big deal for Felipe Andrew's career and a very important match for him. He's trying to make a little bit more inroad into these kind of shows, and if he's able to come out here and put on a really, really good performance against a guy who is as known and as respected as Declan Moody, guy's picking up wins at ADCC, a guy who just looked awesome at the CJI trials, just kicking the heck out of everybody, then this is going to be a really, really big win for Felipe Andrew. And I'm really excited to see how the AOJ element is affecting his game, right? He went over to AOJ right as he was starting to get out of the gi and get more into no-gi. Those guys have been trying to really build something up. Jonatas is at the top of this card. Everybody in that gym is really focusing for Worlds right now, so you got to know he's getting a lot of good, intense rounds. Really excited to see what he brings to this.
Definitely. And then Victor Silverio versus Kyle Chambers. This one for me came a little more out of the woods. You know, I was like, whoa, okay, this is. I mean, it's kind of sick, but I didn't really expect it. You know, what did you guys think whenever you heard this match was going to be when we announced this match and everything?
Two super aggressive guys, which is what I really like the most. If you look at this welterweight division, there's definitely plenty of super aggressive guys, right? You can name a lot of guys who just go out there and go crazy. But I think these guys are stylistically really well suited. Victor probably has a little bit more of like the traditional game, and Kyle is always going to have the weird unorthodox game compared to anybody, right? But they're both super submission oriented. They're both coming off of WNO wins in their last matches that they had with the organization. Time to get these guys on the main card and time to see what, you know, how they look against each other.
Definitely.
Yeah, and obviously I'm a big fan of both these guys. To be honest, I've been watching Victor Silverio for the last 10 years. I remember watching him on the Kumite that we've been talking about back in the day. Victor Silverio has been an elite competitor for the last 10 years. We haven't seen as much of him, you know, in the last 5 years or so, but he was a guy who was cooking everybody on the scene back in the day, and, you know, he just had a big win on the last Who's Number One that we did in Costa Mesa, had a quick submission there, proved that he's still, you know, among the elite in this game. And so I think this is definitely a bit of a step up in competition for him. Kyle Chambers is a guy, you know, he's kind of this new era a little bit, you know, and he has a super fun game, definitely very unorthodox. So he's going to be throwing a lot of crazy stuff at Victor Silverio that maybe he's not as hip to. So it is kind of like that styles clash. Obviously, Victor Silverio now represents Gracie Baja, and Kyle Chambers represents 10th Planet. I feel like you can't get kind of two different teams in the world of jiu-jitsu, you know. So, yeah, this one definitely has a lot of question marks written all over it. Kyle Chambers wasn't able to get it done in his last Who's Number One match he had with Dory, but very close match. Could have gone either way. I think.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a close match. I believe. Yeah, Dory got the win, but Kyle was attacking the whole time. He had some legit leg lock attempts, if I remember correctly,
and a deep go-go plata attempt. I really did think in the time that I thought Kyle had won that. Love Dory, obviously, but it was a very, very like 51-49 kind
Yeah.
of feeling just
Yeah.
personally for me.
Yep. Yeah. You know, I agree.
Props to Dory. Obviously, he did. I think he took the back at the end. That was like a pretty
That's true. Yeah.
deciding
Yeah,
moment.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, Kyle
Very
is a
close.
guy who is
Super
always
close.
attacking submissions, and we saw a lot of that in his last match. A lot of attacks from guard, a lot of leg entries, and I do think it's kind of like the submission from bottom versus the passing and the pressure, but that tends to make for something to happen. So I'm excited.
Yeah, so obviously the way this card is shaping up already, it's going to be a sick one. We're going back to Costa Mesa, California. We're going to be at the hangar. We've sold out the hangar every time we've been there. So, you know, don't wait on these tickets. Make sure you're going to tickets.flowsports.tv, buying your tickets now so you can be there, see this one in person if you're in the area. You know, you aren't going to want to miss this one. Like we already mentioned already, the main event is going to be Mika Galvao versus Jonathan Gracie for the 185 belt. We got the heavyweight strap back on the line. You know, that's exciting stuff. And then some great matches to fill the rest of the card. Obviously, more will be coming out soon. We're keeping announcing throughout the rest of this week. And eventually the undercard and everything will come out too. But yeah, make sure and get your tickets now at tickets.flowsports.tv. So you have some final...
There's an
thoughts there,
undercard match that if we sign it, I'm so excited.
Oh, yeah?
For the idea that we are going to sign this one.
Okay. All right.
Well,
I
there
won't
you go.
spoil anything.
Stay
Yeah.
tuned.
Yeah,
Stay
no
Don't
tuned.
spoilers.
spoil anything, but if we could get these two savages out there, it would be very cool.
All right, nice. But yeah, so that's the lowdown on what we know so far about WNO 28. But before we get to Costa Mesa, before we get to WNO, we got to go to the IBJJF World Championship, baby. You know, the biggest gi event in the world. The jiu-jitsu community will take over the Walter Pyramid in Long Beach, California, and it's always an incredible time. It's always great seeing everybody out there. You know, it's just like one of the most fun environments to be in. You know, you're just seeing legends in the crowd screaming, all the teams getting behind their guys, everyone going nuts in the Walter Pyramid. But yeah, that one's coming up soon, right? What's the first day of Worlds? May 29th, right? May 29th. It runs through June 2nd.
10 days out.
June 1st.
10 days out from Worlds today.
Yeah,
So,
10 days out.
Let's go.
Let's kick it off by telling the people a little bit about the Road to Worlds plan this year, because I've seen some people, some comments, you know, saying like, is there going to be Road to Worlds? What's going on? And in the past, I feel like we've started dropping episodes maybe a little sooner, but we decided to mix it up this year. We wanted to do a legitimate road trip to Worlds. So this year, Slack's already kind of went out to the West Coast. He's filmed with some people so that we can get some content going out. But then on Wednesday this week, me and Reed are taking off, all right? I'm hoping we get some super slick-looking minivan, you know? We're going to get oiled up head to tippy toe, and we're just going to be cruising. Just, yeah, oh,
One of
dude.
you is.
We're going to be slipping and sliding down the road from Austin, Texas, all the way to Long Beach, California, ending up at the pyramid. The plan is to basically be daily vlogging it as we go. My hands might be too slippery to slap the keyboard and hope things fall in line to make the vlogs for you guys, but I'll get it done. I'll persevere. I'll show grit, and we'll get through it. But we don't have every single stop exactly ironed out yet. All right, I got to start hitting up a lot of people, figuring out the exact plans. But the rough plan is we're gonna start in Austin, Texas. We're gonna drive down to San Antonio. You know, I won't say any specific gyms or anything like that, but you guys can piece it together if you're in the know. Go to San Antonio, then we're going out through West Texas, you know, maybe stop somewhere like Midland or somewhere like that, you know, keep cruising through. I don't know where we'll stop along the way, but ultimately getting to like the Phoenix area, hopefully then the Vegas area, and then we'll be in California. We might go NorCal, we might go SoCal, we might go Tijuana. I don't know, dude. You know, there's the possibilities are limitless whenever you just got two dudes and four wheels, am I right? So I'm super stoked for this one. You've obviously been doing Road to Worlds for a long time, Reed. You know, it's like all the way back to like, what was the first year, 2016 or?
Yeah, no, definitely personally this year is definitely, I'm like even more excited every year, you know, since 2016, I've been to the World Championships here. This end of May, early June has been reserved for the IBJJF World Championships. I first went in 2016. It was the return of Buchecha from his injury. You know, 2015, Bernardo Faria won the absolute championships, and 2016, Buchecha was coming back into the fold. Can he get it done? It was a crazy hype tournament, you know, and yeah, 10 years now we have been streaming the World Championships on FloGrappling. I've been there. A bunch of us have been been there throughout the years and everything like that. Like you said, it's just such a fun tournament. The entire jiu-jitsu world descends on the Walter Pyramid. It feels like such a big deal. So I'm just so excited for this time around for 10 years now. We've been following these storylines from Euros, Pans, Brasileiros, Tynan, Adam Wardzinski, Gabby Pisania. There's so many great storylines that I think are all leading now here to the World Championships, and we get a front row seat. There's nothing better than being mat side for the finals with my camera. That's where I excel. That's one of the things that I love most about this job, is just being right there for some of the biggest moments in the sport. And here it comes around one more time. So just can't expel how excited I am. This is such a fun tournament, that one of the biggest moments of the year. Every year something crazy always happens, whether it's Tynan gets DQ'd in the quarterfinals, or we get to see Adam Wardzinski after 8 years of kind of failing to make the podium. He finally gets it done and does all submissions last year and wins the World Championships. It doesn't get bigger for these guys that are dedicating their lives to try to win a World Championship. There's so much pressure. There's a lot on the line. The stakes are high. And man, when you're in that room, in that pyramid, when this is all going down, like I get goosebumps just thinking about it. It really is one of the funnest weekends of the entire year if you're interested in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, so it's absolutely electric. Like, we can't really express that enough. But this is 10 years of the World Championship being on FloGrappling, right? The first year it was streamed by us was 2015, right?
Yeah, we streamed we started in like October-ish of 2015. We streamed the IBJJF Nogi World Championship, so I went there in 2015. But we started a little late in the year, so
Gotcha.
Worlds had already passed by the time FloGrappling launched in October 2015. So technically, our first ever IBJJF World Championships was the Worlds in 2016.
Yeah, definitely. And, it does feel special to be, a decade of FloGrappling. I think that is a significant thing. You were there, maybe people don't know this, but you were there from the first day of FloGrappling, right?
Like, before the first day of
FloGrappling. Before that, you were what, just editing like wrestling films and other stuff?
We were really just track, wrestling, gymnastics, and just a few verticals at that point in time. And we were looking to get into more sports. I had just started jiu-jitsu at that time, so we were getting, and obviously wrestling does have a bit of a connection to jiu-jitsu, so it was on the radar. And man, it's been a crazy ride here these last 10 years for sure. It's been wild. But yeah, wouldn't trade it, man. It's been a lot of special moments over the years, and just to be mat side, like I said, for Roberto Jimenez winning double gold at purple belt, and just all these big moments over the years. There's so many that kind of flood my mind that I've just been so lucky enough to be there for. It's incredible.
Super incredible. Like Road to Worlds, like going back to it specifically, I feel like whenever I was a fan of FloGrappling, I first started like really getting hip to FloGrappling and following it, watching everything, was probably like 2017. And, Road to Worlds was always that thing that like everyone was stoked to come out. Like, I know I was always like anxiously waiting, for that 2017, especially because that was like when Casey Neistat was kind of like running the world of online content and like vlogging to like a degree that no one else really was at that time. So it was kind of like a little slice of that Casey Neistat style getting pulled into the jiu-jitsu world. So I was like, oh, this is sick.
Took a lot of inspiration from Casey and what he was doing at that time, for sure.
But there's been kind of two eras of Road to Worlds. There's the 2016 to like, I don't know if there was a 2020 Road to Worlds, right, because of COVID, but there was a 2021, all right, and that was whenever a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed 23-year-old, decided to get in front of the camera and take things to a new level, let the fans finally enjoy some charismatic, positive attitude on the camera, had a nice haircut, didn't need the long hair to win whenever. So this is what I'm proposing to the fans, okay? If you see us at the World Championship, I need you to come up to us and tell us, are you an old age, stone age type of Road to Worlds fan? Were you into the, who cares about the Unity vlog, dude?
Talk about
people gotta stop talking about the Unity vlog. Or were you into that new stuff, the new age, 2021, 22, 23, like in the Amazon jungle, 2022, we went to the Amazon jungle with Mika Galvao. That's all time, baby. So let us know, are you a new age guy, an old age guy? Maybe, cite some of your favorite favorite episodes? I'll let you cite some favorite episodes. You got some favorite episodes all time, Road to Worlds?
No, for sure. The City of God episode with Gabby Pisani that you guys
cool.
did was a legendary one.
So that was like one of Slack's first trips for Flo.
That was like my first project.
Now, be honest. Were you shaking in your boots whenever we were about to go to City of God?
I'll be honest. I was shaking in my boots.
Yeah.
Beforehand.
Because it didn't. Our entry to City of God didn't go quite as planned.
It wasn't a very smooth entry. There was a lot of question marks. There was like a lot of this didn't work. That plan fell through. Now we don't know how we're getting there. Now we don't know how we're getting back. Now we don't know where we're going.
We essentially realized on the morning we were supposed to meet Gabby Pisania in City of God, a place that's not easily accessible, you know. I'll be honest, gringos aren't really allowed, which we are. And we realized we didn't have a ride to or from City of God. We thought we were just going to Uber. Kind of stupid on our part looking back. And like basically the Ubers are just like, no, we don't go to City of God. We couldn't even get the taxis to take us to City of God. We had to start calling people. And finally someone hooked us up. Like someone from Rio was like, oh, I know a dude who drives taxis now who's from City of God. He'll probably take you. And so we just had this kind of like bootleg connection to one specific taxi driver who was like, I'm willing to drive into City of God. And we were like, how are we going to get out? I think that's maybe where Slack was like, what are you guys talking about?
Well, the funny thing, to be honest, was that like I had just met you guys. Like I had like barely even worked at this job for 3 months by the time we were doing that. And so there was a lot of like mixed feelings of excitement about being in Brazil for the first time, but like nerves about my first thing that I do in Brazil being go to Cidade, which is like obviously a very notorious place.
Yeah.
But once we figured out the plan and once we got there, it was an incredible experience. I felt very welcomed. I felt very, looked after by that whole team. Everybody there really just like took us under their wing, showed us around, and it was like a really incredible experience.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, you didn't know me that well, and I can be a somewhat intense, somewhat like throw caution to the wind guy, especially when I'm trying to make a video. And so I think I was basically like, dude, let's just get an Uber to get us as close to City of God as they will, and then we'll find like some moto taxis to take us the rest of the way. And Slack was like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
he had to put his foot down. He was like, I'm not doing that. But ultimately, this taxi dude, he told us he would come back at this time to take us out of City of God. Yeah. And, there's definitely a moment where we were like, dude, we're going to be stuck here. Like, obviously, Gabby Pisania would help us out and, like, hook us up. They'd make sure we weren't just alone in City of God. But, they were able to, that guy came back. He followed through with his promise and gave us a ride out of there. But, yeah, that was a sick one. I was joking about the Unity one. Obviously, the Unity one is an all-time Road to Worlds episode. Yeah. I think that one's still talked about to this day. People still bring it up to you. And whenever I interviewed, it was the one question I had. You had all the questions for me, and then you were like, you got any questions for me? And I was like, dude, what was that like? That was a crazy video, So that one is for sure all-time episode.
Yeah, didn't know in the moment that one was going to be such a lightning rod, to be honest. I was like, what is going on? Everybody's jumping in the shower. This is crazy. But like when you're in the room, I think it makes sense because there's just no air in the room. And like you need something to cool you off, and jumping in the shower, you're already soaking wet from sweat anyway. So who cares about jumping in the shower? But for sure, that's definitely like number one thing I feel like people ask me about is the Unity vlog. Even I was just talking to Chloe McNally, who's signed up for Worlds here. And she's obviously from Unity, and she says that when she tells people from Unity, that's the number one thing people ask her about is the shower stuff. So it's like clearly.
Was she there for that at all?
No, not that specifically, but she was on the team at that time. Yeah.
I still don't get it.
I mean, like, I think it's just people training so hard, and like that room goes so hard. Murillo runs such a like hard competition class that they were just like in a primitive state of like, I need to be cooled down. Even if it means worse things in 10 minutes, I need it right now. Like,
dude, they had 2 sets of mats. So they would train for an hour or whatever going crazy, and then the mats would just become slip and slides, and then they would lay new mats on top of the old mats and then start training on these new mats that they just laid down for another hour until those mats got completely soaked. And then it was like, all right, the training session's over. But like, yeah, they were doing stuff that like I've never seen before or since. Like it was wild what they're doing, but certainly some of the hardest training I've ever seen in my entire life, for sure. So
incredible, dude. So anybody at home, if you haven't seen that one, I think it's 2017 Road to Worlds. 2017, right?
Yeah, sounds right.
Just look up like 2017 Road to Worlds or Road to Worlds Unity, and you'll find the video. But go check out some of those old ones if you haven't. Get prepared for this year's Road to Worlds. I'm super stoked for this one. Obviously, it's been going on for a long time now, so it's like, how can you make the same thing but slightly different? And that's what kind of excites me about the road trip aspect. I think it's gonna be fun just being on the road. It's gonna be a lot of just a lot of people complaining about, oh, where's the jiu-jitsu, blah, blah. There's gonna be jiu-jitsu in it, but it's also about the act of getting from Austin to Long Beach itself. So hopefully you guys can enjoy that, feel like you're along for the ride with us. I kind of feel like that's one of my always focuses when I'm doing these vlogs and stuff. Like, I want people at home to get to experience this through like our lens and through our perspective, and kind of like see a slice of the jiu-jitsu community. Like maybe not everyone is, as lucky to get to see all the time. So hopefully we can bring that to you guys, make something incredible for this year's Road to Worlds. And ultimately we're going to end up at the Walter Pyramid, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on this year at Worlds. I think now if we kind of, talk some more about the World Championship, the first thing I think is worth talking about is kind of the emphasis that's been put on athletes trying to win all IBJJF majors in the same year. I feel like that's Mika, when he made his comeback in 2024, it like went from Mika's not even going to do Euros to now Mika won Euros, and he's like declaring that he's going to make a year that people remember for 100 years, and he's going to win every single IBJJF major in the same year. He ultimately was able to pull it off. Obviously, he got a ton of media attention for it, not just from us, but from everybody. It became like the main talking point as Mika just kind of kept traveling the world and checking off these IBJJF majors along the way. That was kind of like the biggest thing. And I think a lot of athletes saw that and they were like, all right, there's value in this. I want to do that too. I want to let people know that I too can win all the IBJJF majors in the same year. And so now we have a few athletes who are still kind of on track to pull that off. Obviously, Tynan Dalpra is one of them. Diego Pato, Adam Wardzinski. If he does it, this will also be his second world championship. Just such an incredible story to go, a guy who's trying to, break through that level for so long. And then he went from winning his first world championship in what would be considered late in the game in jiu-jitsu years,
out of a traditional prime.
Yeah.
After Masters eligible.
Prime,
yeah. It's like, jiu-jitsu is a young man's game. Like you hit 27 and it's like, whoa, I don't know. Maybe
still surprised half the time I'm talking to people and they're like, yeah, well, I'm only 22. And
yeah.
I'm like, oh, geez.
I mean, most of the time it's like 19. It's
yeah,
like,
right?
But
still got a lot left. I'm like, oh my God.
Still got a couple more years in.
Yeah.
So it's crazy for him to go from trying for so long to winning worlds to then getting recognized for the IBJJF Grand Slam, and now basically going for his second world championship, but also completing kind of, the Grand Slam as we view it and everything, winning all the majors in the same year. So super incredible there. Jenaina Lebre also up for all the majors in the same year. Is there anybody else?
Gabby still.
Gabby Pisania.
For the Open, but not for her weight class.
Right.
Tayani ended up, that was a crazy upset, dude. Obviously, like I said in the previous episode, like I think we're going to see a rejuvenated, back to business Gabby at this World. So who knows what she'll do there. But anybody else? Is that all of them?
That's it for the Grand Slam.
Yeah. So incredible. I think those are some of the biggest storylines we're watching and everything. I guess I'll open it up to you guys. I've been yapping a lot. These dudes are like freaking, I'm an old age fan, dude. Shut up. What kind of some of these things that you guys are watching for Worlds you're most interested in or tuned into?
Super deep weight classes. There are over 100 top 10 ranked black belts in these divisions. Everybody has come out. All these divisions are absolutely stacked up with all the best guys in all the weight classes. I think there's a lot of different places that we could pop to. I think Diogo versus Pato is on the table at light feather. I think Kolabate at featherweight, potentially winning his first Gi World Championship, is definitely on the table. I think Andy Murasaki at lightweight, obviously Tynan holding it down at middleweight. I think Tynan is an enormous favorite at that weight class, just looking at the field. No offense to the field. I think guys
Shout
like...
out to Rolando Sampson, though.
Shout out to Rolando. Always makes it a match.
He's looking real good.
Yeah.
Always makes a great match. I love Rolando. On the women's side, Janaína is in a super tough weight class that also has Louisa and Brianna St. Marie. So I think that's going to be a war if she wants to get it done, although she's beaten both of them on her way to the top this year. Super, super good weight classes. Cassia Mora, rookie black belt, ranked #1 coming into the World Championships. Man, I can't wait. A lot of great stuff for us to talk about here.
Yeah, I mean, plenty of big storylines. I don't know where we want to jump in, but maybe go back up to that featherweight bracket slack real quick. I think that featherweight bracket, looking at it, to me is one of the most interesting brackets out there.
Yeah.
And I do feel like, looking at this list here, this is from an article on FloGrappling, of course, where you can see kind of the notable entries. You can see all the entries on IBJJF, but this is just kind of pulling the notable entries. You can see their rankings beside them. You got Mayram, Fabricio, Andre, Kennedy, Maciel, the Soj brothers, Joao Mendez. But I think one of the biggest storylines coming into here probably has to be, where does Cole Abate fall on this list?
100%.
Obviously, there's a lot of big names: Kennedy, Mayram, Fabricio. These are guys who have accomplished quite a bit in the sport and are looking to repeat. But Cole Abate's had a pretty good year, and he just won Brasileiros.
His first IBJJF major title in the gi. He closed out at Pans with Pato, obviously, but I think Pato got the title officially. Yeah. So Brasileiros was his official first gi major at black belt. And I think a lot of people have been interested in Cole's story through this year, because at 2024, he lost first round at Worlds.
Yeah.
That was his
disappointing performance.
Right. That was his, black belt Worlds debut. It was kind of a big thing. Cole Abate's finally arrived, a kid we've watched since Orange Belt, back in Texas and stuff. And finally, he's now a black belt. Boom, gets taken out first round. Just kind of immediately slapped with the reality of how hard Black Belt Worlds is. It's not a joke, I think sometimes people take it lightly. Every single person in this division can upset anybody, like in any of these divisions. But I agree, this featherweight one is absolutely insane, Anytime Mayram's in there, I think it's must watch. Anytime Fabricio Andre's in there, it's must watch.
Would love a rematch of those two.
Yeah, for sure.
In the BJJ Stars finals, would love to see that run.
Yeah. BJJ Stars 14, where Fabricio was able to get the win, right?
I just wanted to add about Cole. So I saw Cole a few days ago, and I talked to him and also to Guy. And another big component of that year going into Worlds for him was like a really serious injury.
Yeah.
And Guy said it was the worst injury he's ever seen in jiu-jitsu. And Cole, go check out the interview. It's up now on the site. You can hear it from, I don't want to put words in his mouth. You can hear the whole interview from him. But I do think he said he felt like it was maybe a little early to be coming in, but he really wanted to go to Worlds. Obviously, he felt like sturdy enough to do it. He felt good enough to do it, but that he thinks maybe it was a little early to come back. And that has to play a mental role when you're going in. He's on a really great wave of momentum coming out of Brasileiro. So I know he's feeling very confident. But as you guys say, I mean, this is like a really tough bracket, honestly.
Yeah,
super tough bracket. Kennedy Maciel, I think, is somebody that we shouldn't overlook here. He's the guy who's beaten Cole, the only guy to actually beat Cole in a head-to-head match this year. He beat him at Euros.
Euros, right.
But that was off of...
Match.
It was a tough match, but it was also, if you remember very early, Cole got down into a hole because of some guard pulling penalties that he got.
Right.
That the referee was calling, you didn't really have a grip. Maybe a different referee calls it differently, because I didn't think it was egregious or anything. And then very late in that match, Cole had a chance to win and almost take the back.
Right, but he didn't get both hooks.
They didn't get
Not
both
enough
hooks
time.
in. So, if that match is 5 seconds longer, although Kennedy, he knew how much time was left.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
But all I'm saying is like that you could absolutely see that match playing out differently if they run that back. But Kennedy has also been a guy who, like last year we were talking about coming in, had won all the majors and then had a really bad performance at Worlds. He wants that redemption. And so I think he's another guy who's going to be super motivated.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's like Kennedy is a guy who seems to always put it together everywhere else. And he hasn't quite put it all together at Worlds. So you know that he's going to be looking for his world title as well. So there's 5, 6, 7 guys on the list that like I would not be surprised to take the title here.
100%.
Definitely.
Depends how the bracket plays out and who gets what, but...
It's like the Soj brothers also.
Yeah,
like the Soj brothers are always just, right there. And I think they can beat anybody at any time. So it's like, eventually, who knows? They could break through and get that done as well.
And now they're with Melky. And
Yeah.
I think them being with Melky and having Mika to train with every day is only going to make them better. To have 75 Manowar 14-year-olds trying to take their head off every day is only going to help them.
For sure. So obviously a stacked featherweight division. Let's scroll up and look at the light featherweight division as well. The other way. Yeah. Because this one obviously has Diego Pato, Diogo Hayes, Malachi Edmond, Shoya Ishiguro, who's like throughout this year kind of became one of my more favorite guys to watch. Super sick. Zach Kina. A lot of sick names.
Leo Villela, the guy who beat Cole Abate last year, is in this weight class now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And then Nathaniel Jackson, right? You're talking about Melky. That's another Melky.
Yeah, and Yuri Hendricks as well. Yeah.
Wow. So, yeah, super stick one.
Nathaniel might be Frautra's, actually.
Oh, is he? Okay, gotcha. My bad, boys.
But Yuri definitely is Melky.
So obviously this is a super sick one as well. Pato, if he can get this one done, that'll be all the majors in the same year. But I have a feling Diogo Hayes is going to want to put a stop to that. These guys just always meeting and going back and forth.
Yeah, that Baby Shark. Yeah, Baby Shark. They're 2-2 against each other. Okay, so yeah, obviously the Baby Shark versus Pato match is one that we're hoping hits, that we're definitely watching along on. Obviously, there's a lot of talent in here. I think Malachi is a little underrated. He's a guy who could definitely win here as well. But it seems like the big match is Pato versus Baby Shark, and like you said, they're 2-2. That one could go either way. So
I think they might be 2-2, and I think that includes 1-1 gi and no gi. I think they're just like the most deadlocked rivalry going right now in jiu-jitsu. It's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So does Pato have the 2 wins in no gi, and then
No, I think they have 1 win and 1 loss in gi and no gi both.
I was gonna say Diogo beat him ADCC finals, right? But Pato beat him who's number
At
1.
W&O, and then I think it was like Pan's 1 year. Pan's Diogo won, but at Worlds, Pato won.
Gotcha.
Crazy.
Not to get wrapped up in the technicality, but Pato did technically Grand Slam already, right? Because he won.
Yeah, the way IBJJF.
I'm just now new to this whole thing, so I'm like trying to keep up with that now. But
Yeah.
the way IBJJF talks about the Grand Slam
they started
is
at last year's Worlds.
Yeah, and then it rolls through Brasileiros is when the calendar.
He's feeling
officially
confident
ends.
for sure.
But, obviously we're not going to dive all the way through every single division. It would just take too long and everything. But we can go to lightweight. But as Slack's pulling up lightweight, shout out the Rooster weights. I know Bebeto Oliveira, my old sensei, is going to be in there as well, defending his world championship at Rooster. But also some young guys, I assume. Jalen Financier is probably in there. He's been looking great. So definitely keep your eyes on that. And like we said, all this info is on FloGrappling.com. So if you want to go look at the full division breakdowns and see every single name, go ahead and check out that article, check out that content. But this lightweight division, it was obviously big news when Andy, a lot of trend or a trend you see is a lot of guys posting their absolutely shredded shirtless pics right before Worlds, kind of letting the world know how jacked they are, just how absolutely peeled out of their tree they look right before the World Championship. And Andy,
me and Trey are gonna be getting those pics.
I'll be posting some absolutely shredded photos from the road. But I kind of have like this new age variation of shredded, where it's more of an identification as shredded thing with just like a little more
Spiritually shredded.
Yeah, like a little more protection for the road. If I wasn't doing the road thing, I would be absolutely peeled. But you need a little more insulation when you're on the road. Not sure where you're sleeping and everything at night. But Andy posted that photo. I mean, what a physique, dude. I'm not beating the allegations on this one, but what a physique on that guy, and announced that he was dropping to light, so he was particularly shredded. I think that's a sick move for Andy, especially looking at the lightweight bracket this year. It's obviously a super tough bracket. I think Elijah, we saw him at middleweight give Tynan a very tough match, a match that was tougher than Tynan's probably used to be honest, by most people. But Elijah also is going down to light for this World. Yeah. So those are the two guys that immediately kind of jump off the page at me.
Mateus Gabriel's in here.
Mateus Gabriel.
Oh, I didn't see Mateus Gabriel.
World champ Mateus Gabriel. I didn't.
All right, that's nuts. That changes a lot.
Yeah, I'm not sure I saw his name in there.
I didn't either.
But seeing his name in there, obviously you have another, or maybe the lone world champion, I guess.
Yeah, he is the lone former world champion, or not former, but yeah, he is the one person who has won black belt world championship in this bracket.
Wow. And man, Mateus Gabriel, we haven't seen a whole lot of him recently. I feel like he's been up and down, but especially that 2019, 2020 time, he had some of the most electric jiu-jitsu in the game. That black hole stuff that he kind of really popularized.
It was like everyone's doing that now.
Yeah. So I hope Mateus is training. I hope he's on point right now, because when we see a sharp Mateus Gabriel, it's some of the funnest jiu-jitsu.
If he's at his peak, he's going to be in the finals with Andy.
Yeah,
right. That's I think what people are, and then Elijah's also obviously going to have some sway there. But he's absolutely one of the best guys here. The reason he's ranked 10th is he's just been out. I think it was a shoulder injury for a long time. Kept him out. I know he showed up to Worlds one year. I think he won his first match, but couldn't even continue the bracket.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And he's obviously incredible. This weight has really just been a tale of all year. It's been all different guys showing up and looking amazing. Leo Souza shows up at Euros and gets all subs and puts out his opponent in the finals, Protasio, with a clock choke. And then at Pans, it's Hobinho coming out and winning that field that had Jackson Nagayan, and he looked awesome there. Mateus Gabriel was in that bracket and took bronze. I think Hobinho beat him too. And then Brasileiros, it was Mayram Makin, a different Mayram. Or no, it was somebody else who won.
Makin is Mayram.
Yeah. It's a different guy, but also named Makin. He won, Lucas Makin. He won Brasileiros. So it's just been all these different champions all year looking awesome. And now, like a meteor, here comes Andy Murasaki jettisoning in. And I think he becomes the favorite for this class. He's been in the World Finals the last 3 or 4 years in all different weight classes. I think lightweight is where he looks the best. He's so powerful here. He gave Mika an incredible match last year in the World Finals where he was right on the tip of being able to win that and knock off a guy who was having a career year. It's going to be an awesome bracket. Lightweight's going to be some of the best action all year.
Yeah, and then you got a guy like Pedro Maya, too, who's been
Yeah,
kind of waiting for his breakout moment, and he's
Yeah.
had some big matches.
Do we see Elijah versus Pedro Maya rematch?
Yeah.
Elijah probably wants that back.
That's the one where Pedro put him out, right?
Like
Yeah.
zipper choke that he hit him with.
Corpsed him up good with a standing cross choke kind of thing, yeah.
And then, I'm a huge fan of Espen Mathisen, too, and Espen is I love that he always keeps coming out to world championships, because I know how much that one means to him. So would love to see Espen mixing it up in there.
All these guys are dog tough. Natan is super dog tough.
Jan Pika Pau,
Jan Pika Pau.
Thiago Saboya, Gabriel Galvao, all these
guys.
dudes. But let's keep it cruising. For time's sake, let's go to middleweight.
I think Tynan is probably the biggest favorite of the weekend. Now that especially with Gabby Pisagna taking losses, I think that, man, just this weight class like we were talking about, all his biggest opponents throughout the year have now dropped down to lightweight. A couple of people are up at medium heavyweight. This bracket looks very well set up for Tynan to be able to come in here and for the first time in 3 years win another black belt world champion.
It's kind of crazy to think about, right?
Super crazy.
This would be his fourth or third?
Third. He's going for his third.
Yeah. So 2021, 2022 he won. 2023 lost to Jansen. 2024 DQ.
Yep.
And then
He won 2020.
No, he won 2021 in Anaheim.
Started in 2021.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the Anaheim convention.
Him and
center
Fabricio.
won. Yeah.
Andre same year.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. And then, Rolando Sampson, obviously, he's had a couple matches with Tynan and put up a real test to Tynan. So that seems like if that one hits, that's going to be a fun match. Always love the style of Rolando and Tynan that those dudes, really make for a fun match. So hopefully we see that one.
That's kind of the matchup that I'm hoping to for the finals is, we get Rolando in there, who I just know is going to have a very fun match no matter what.
Yeah, and that dude's been in the game for such a long time as well.
A lot of experience.
He's a guy we've been watching since he was a brown belt, purple belt. So he deserves, I think, to make it to that second day and hopefully make it to the finals. I would love to see Rolando. He's been putting in a lot of work, so he deserves it. So hopefully it works out for him. But the Tynan Mountain is a big mountain to climb.
Definitely, dude. But it's going to be interesting to watch. Men's medium heavy, Batista going down to medium heavy. We saw him at heavyweight last year.
He was at medium heavy last year.
Yeah, you're right. That was against Jansen in the finals. Yeah,
Went
okay.
all subs last year. It was a crazy performance.
True,
that he
4
had,
for 4.
In the pyramid, tapped out Bahians in the semifinals.
That was a sick.
That was a crazy knee
submission.
bar, and then footlock over Jansen in the finals, broke his shit. He couldn't do the absolute final. But then Jansen is always looking amazing, and Jansen has his best performances in the pyramid, right?
Hui Alves, I made a blue belt highlight of him winning worlds back in the day. Now Hui Alves is a black belt, so that's kind of crazy.
I actually came across that a week ago. It was like a lapel guard kind of thing, if I remember right.
Yeah, he was just lapel guarding the shit out of everybody. Nobody had any answers.
Yeah.
He just dominated everybody as a blue belt.
10 years of FloGrappling, dude. There's a lot of history on that website. If you can figure out how to navigate it and find it, you'll uncover some incredible stuff, no doubt. But
Daniel Hibamar, another guy who's just has that impossible pressure like Gustavo Batista to deal with, so he can pass anybody's guard, upset any one of these names.
is only one of both Veterachis are on there. Okay.
Yeah, both Federachis are in there. 12 of the 15 ranked guys in the world at medium heavyweight are in this bracket. And I think a couple are just in different brackets, still showed up to the tournament. They're just not doing medium heavy.
So all the names are out here.
Everybody
you want to see who's wearing the gi is out here.
100%. I think that this is going to be an awesome bracket.
Matthias Luna.
I'm really excited to see how the Vetteracci brothers do in there with like Gustavo Batista. Those guys have been one of the biggest stories, I feel like, of this weight class, certainly, but even just the gi season so far is like these guys come out, they are savages, big takedowns, crazy pressure and pace, and they put on really exciting matches. I think they've had really exciting matches with guys like Wanderson. At Euros, they were bringing the crowd to life. Brasileiros, they had some really great performances. These dudes are electric. Jansen Gomez is electric. Gustavo Batista is 4 for 4 with submissions. This bracket is going to be nuts.
Yeah. Jansen had to go through both Vetteracci brothers at Brasileiros, which is kind of crazy. You basically just fight a like as identical as it gets person 2 times. Like obviously the Ruotolos are identical, but you can identify Cade and Ty just, because of Cade's hair. But like the Vetteracci brothers, dude, I'll never know which is which. Like,
how would you?
As
like
a
they could worker, you could fuck with.
Yeah.
Them, right?
Well, they could just lie for sure. Like
That's
they could just be like, Davi is hurt, so like the other one just steps in and is like, I'm Davi. Like it's like no one would ever know. But
gotta get some fingerprints.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
Craziest part, they don't represent the same academy. How did this even happen?
Oh, really?
Yeah, one's like Blackout Grappling and one's no.
I wonder if they like own different. They live in Portugal, right? I wonder if they own different gyms in Portugal
maybe,
or something. But yeah, I don't know. That is crazy. But
it feels like Gustavo's a lot bigger than a lot of those guys, though.
For sure.
Man, that's a hard pull for him, I feel.
Yeah.
For him to come all the way down. He's in this. Louisa also in here. We could talk about that more in a minute. But
yeah,
honestly, that was some of my favorite moments of the World Championships last year. Is when Gustavo and Luisa won, and Gustavo was shushing the crowd and everything. We had a kind of a Leandro Lowe moment of silence. That was one of the most
that was incredible
special moments in my 10 years of history of Worlds. To be honest, like that was an incredible moment. So.
Super sick. But then, moving along to the men's heavyweight division here, obviously the number one, the reigning champ for the heavyweights, Adam Wardzinski. But, I mean, like all of these divisions, just a super sick list of names under that. Obviously, Pedro Machado. Is he the most recent guy to beat Adam, right? At Pans?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's Eric.
Oh, Eric, yeah, BJJ Stars. But I guess in the heavyweight division. But obviously Roberto also, Leo Ferreira, Hiter Zucci, Patrick Gauggio back in the mix. Kind of sick that Patrick Gauggio's back into it. Mateus Rodriguez.
Yo, if Roberto's out there on the mats and you aren't watching, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing with your life? Like if Roberto steps on the mats, believe me, all of us were stopping whatever we're doing and we're watching Roberto go to town.
There's just all of a sudden like 5 flow cameras on that mat for no reason. Just everyone wants to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
it genuinely has been awesome to watch Roberto, who has been another one of the biggest stories this year.
Yeah.
Make his return. He brings that same no care kind of throw everything attitude to the gi, proves that it is a mentality first and foremost that determines this much more than a gi or no gi or anything like that. Big throws, crazy arm bars. I hope his arm's doing well. I know that we couldn't see him at Brasileiros after BJJ Stars, but if he's entered into everything, I think that's a sign that he's feeling better. You never see any of these guys in casts like we've talked about.
He was hanging out at Brasileiros, like seemed pretty okay. Like, what obviously wasn't like he was like in a sling, like arm fully broken. So, probably just got it popped pretty severely and, just a little whatever the stuff that Slack and Roberto eat is that, regenerates tissue and
pasta.
Yeah. He'll be back ready to go for Worlds. But yeah, obviously sick to watch him. A lot of great names. Let's cruise through some of the heavyweights, because obviously
I want to see the Roberto Adam rematch too, for
sure.
sure.
Yeah, from Pans.
That's a big one.
Yeah, super heavy's been cool. Ultra heavy's been cool.
Yeah, obviously Eric Muniz is the guy to talk about there. This Nolan Stewart guy been making waves too. Nolan Stewart's sick to watch. Also, I think he was in the finals at Brasileiros. So
that's a big story this year as well. Is that Nolan Stewart kind of came out here and has really been cementing himself as top 1 or 2 guys in this super heavy division. So
and then Marcus Carrasino, kind of a disruptor guy. He's disrupted a lot of dudes at like Nogi Pans, Nogi Worlds. What did he do in the gi? I can't remember.
At Euros, he made the absolute finals.
That's right.
And he was the guy who was like 10 seconds away from winning the absolute title there, but they called for that last penalty.
Double DQ.
Double DQ'd him. Yeah, that was a crazy one.
But, so he can obviously shake things up. Then men's ultra heavy, Scooby leading the way, Guillermo Augusto, Lucas Montalvo, Helder Jose, Roosevelt Souza being in the mix is awesome. So a lot of great stuff in this one as
Scooby,
well.
an underrated always close but never quite getting the gold guy, who I feel like at Worlds, who I feel like might be able to get over the hump here. He's been in the finals 2 or 3 times himself.
Who's number 1 ranked at ultra heavy? Is it Eric?
Eric.
Yeah.
But he's down. He's competing at super heavy.
So Anderson could go ultra, I guess. They kind of
so sometimes they'll enter like that and then switch because they're trying to use Eric to like spook everybody to not sign up for a certain division, to be honest. And then at the last minute they'll have them switch. So it's still not like for sure which division Eric will do. I've seen them pull that trick a few times, but we'll see.
And then the lone former world champion in this division,
Saif,
I believe, is Saif. So we got Saif. Yeah. You know?
The current reigning defending world champion, is back to make it happen again after, I think, 12 consecutive positive drug tests for everybody else in the division, kept knocking it so that he moved up.
Yep.
I don't know if everybody realizes that, but Saif did get the world gold last year after everybody else tested positive.
So now's his chance to really cement himself as the guy.
2-time world champion for sure.
Champ.
I think the absolute division is obviously going to be must watch. You know, I wonder if Jansen is going to be trying to vie for that. He obviously didn't get to do the absolute
final. I'd love to see Jansen
Yeah.
versus Eric for sure.
To like run it back, get to see what we kind of didn't get in 2024. But yeah, that one's going to be electric. Let's kind of look at some of these female divisions. Roosterweight, you know, obviously Maisa Bastos is in there, Jennifer Aquino, Lavinia Barbosa, some great names. Not to just kind of peruse past anybody, but I want to talk about Mia Funegra. I've been kind of waiting to talk about Mia Funegra. This is a pretty wild situation going on in the women's light featherweight division where Mia and Ashley Funegra are another pair of identical twins that are like hyper identical, you know, very hard to tell. It's great that they always put their names on their gi, so you know if it's Mia or Ashley. And then obviously they have a younger sister, Natalie Funegra, as well. I don't want to leave her out. But Mia and Ashley have been kind of just dominating the brown belt world this past year, like closing out pretty much everything. And I believe it was brown belt no-gi worlds where they closed out, right? They closed out, but Mia got the official title. And I think winning that brown belt no-gi worlds is what made it where she was eligible to register for black belt worlds. And so Mia has now moved up. It was kind of like, I didn't see this coming. I don't know if anyone knew this was happening. Obviously, Guy Mendez had some plans or something, and he bumped Mia Funegra up to the black belt light featherweight division, and Ashley, her identical sister, who wins everything that Mia wins, stayed down at brown belt, kind of, I assume, because of the official who got the title situation. But this is kind of crazy to see Mia go ahead and bump up, and instead of just winning the brown belt or potentially winning the brown belt world championship, to go ahead and just become a black belt and debut now at the world championship. It's got to be one of the fastest ever.
And this just got on you guys' radar like the last couple days, right?
Yeah, I just saw it.
Just happened.
This just happened in the last couple days, 100%. I think that I'm a really big fan of this move.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
I think it's really cool. I think that Mia, I still think that you have one of them in there to win the world title, and I think Ashley wouldn't even be eligible to get bumped up if she felt like it. But you just send these two girls in there. They have like 1 or 2 matches each, and then they reach the finals and close out every single time. Just for the experience, just for the matches, just for the getting in there and actually like letting it all go in a bracket. The idea that now they're finally separated where one's able to do this full bracket, one's going to do this full bracket, and we can come with 2 gold medals now is much more ideal, I think, for the Funegras, for AOJ, who I think are also thinking about the team titles, right? They see that they were able to win the men's overall title at Pans. They are always in the mix when it comes to the women's overall titles. I think that this is also a move to maximize their points and say, let's walk away with, those 18 points instead of just the 12 if we both make the finals.
Yeah, and obviously I don't think Guy Mendez would bump her up if he didn't think like she can win.
I think she can win.
A legitimate chance of winning and everything. So yeah, I think that's pretty sick. Obviously she has some tough girls in this division like Brenda Larissa, Shelby Murphy, Tainara, Amanda Canuto, Jessie Crane, I don't know if I said her, but like there's obviously a lot of very tough black belts who kind of have experience at black belt that she'll have to go through, but this is a pretty sick move. It's interesting. It makes it kind of fun to watch like, oh damn, Mia Funegra's debuting at black belt.
Shaking things up in this division.
Yeah.
For sure. You see a lot of these girls fight each other all the time and whatnot, so now you're going to see Mia kind of really get her first cracks at a lot of these girls, even like a girl like Patty Fontes, who's been in the game for a long, long time, probably has more years as a black belt even maybe than Mia has been training, you know? So it's like, this is just definitely going to shake up that division quite a bit.
Yeah, and then kind of, you know, looking at the featherweight division for the women, obviously Cassia Mora kind of leading the charge there at number 1, Margot Ciccarelli at number 2, but another great division here as well. A lot of game females in this one.
Pretty tough one, pretty good bracket. Not one of the deepest weight classes. The last two, the world finalists from last year, A-Rod and Tata, are not returning for this year. You know, we'll see them again in the future, I believe. But Cassia, after winning such a deep bracket at Brasileiros, is going to come in as number 1. So pretty crazy. 2 years ago, she's winning Blue Belt Worlds. Now she's walking into Worlds as the number 1 ranked black belt. Just 2 years later. Pretty crazy.
That's insane for Cassia for sure. She's had a rapid come up here ever since she came to America, and has really just been dominating the brackets here. So really excited to see what she can do against Margot and even Gabby McCone, who's not ranked, but obviously we know Gabby is a gamer.
And Maria Luisa has been right there against all the best guys, or all the best girls rather, for a really long time. Super underrated. Maria Luisa, who won Pans, is definitely capable of having a big performance here.
Yeah, and then the women's lightweight division, I think this is a pretty stacked one, to be honest. Got Jenaina Lebre, obviously, Luisa Montero, Brianna St. Marie, Janae Fragosa, a lot of girls who are kind of, you know, really trying for this spot. Obviously, Jenaina is kind of like the front runner, you know. This will complete the 4 majors in the same year if she's able to pull this one off.
Is she maybe the biggest favorite in the women?
I don't think she's a huge favorite.
Cassia is probably the biggest favorite.
I don't even know if she's a big favorite. That Brasileiros final was a judge's decision between her and BSM. BSM was able to beat her with a lot of points the last time they faced off before that at the Crown. So I think that's still, you know, a minus 150 plus 125 kind of split on that match. That's still a really, really close one. And then there's a lot of questions around Luisa. I mean, Luisa came in here. She's the defending world champion. She came in here last year. She had a great performance where she won again, beating BSM in the finals, and laid down her belt. We thought she was retiring. She's made the decision to come back. Grapplers always feel the itch to come back. You know what I mean? How often do we see the comeback?
Have we seen a Canadian world champion? Has there been a Canadian world champion?
I think there might be 1 or 2.
Yeah. I feel like I'm
way back.
Dante, Nogi world champ.
Yeah.
It's happened no gi, yeah, but I don't know if it's happened in the gi off the top of my head. But I think that, yeah, it's a 3-horse race, in my opinion, for that top spot. One of those 3 is going to get it, and it is going to be very, very meaningful for whoever gets it, right? Because it's going to be Janaina getting over the hump. It's going to be Brianna getting over the hump after winning the Crown. We saw how impactful that was for her. Or it's going to be Luisa returning to a place where she never knew that she was going to return to. You know what I mean? She had kind of hung that up, and for her to be able to come back and win that again, I think would be very, very meaningful for her.
For sure. And so women's middle, Liz Clay coming at that number 1 spot. You know, what a move, what moves, I guess, Liz Clay's been making since having a baby, you know? She was like, she wasted no time with, like, getting back into it and just, like, reclaiming, like, I'm one of the best in the world, you know? So
it's a huge division, too.
Huge division. Almost all the ranked people are in this division. Super crazy.
Super stacked. Vanessa Griffin in there, I see. Anna Beatriz, Kennedy Franklin, Emily Fajera, just to throw some words out at you guys. Chloe McNally, who's actually been training at Paragon some more now. Been seeing her around.
Yeah, she's putting it on me on Friday.
Getting smoked by Chloe. But yeah, super sick one. Women's medium heavy, just to kind of keep it moving, I guess here we've probably been going for quite a while. Tamara Fajera, Ingrid Alves, Orly Laverne.
The story there is Maca. Yeah, Maria Carolina Vincenti, after placing second last year, has won a bunch of the majors this year. We're looking to see if she can get it done for AOJ.
Yeah, and then at women's heavy, now we got Yara Suarez at heavy. You know, she's finally moved down after meeting Gabby Pisania what seems like an unlimited amount of times. You know, she's now at heavy, so I do think, you know, it's going to be tough for her not to win, to be honest. It's going to be tough for a girl to beat her in this, and I don't know. I think Yara could actualize her dreams here and potentially come away with the world championship, so...
I feel like we're kind of predicting a lot of first-time world champions. You know what I mean? As we go through this, I'm getting the sense that, like, yeah, there's just a lot of these division where it's like, you know, this person we're thinking is going to win it for the first time. This person we're thinking is you know, the favorite to win it for the first time.
Which very well could be oversight by us, to be honest. It's really hard to become a world champion, you know? And This is kind of like we talked about with ADCC. Like, I wonder if it's statistically harder to become a first-time world champion or like a multiple, like a multiple time. Like, I wonder at what point is there that drop-off where it's like it is now harder to win X amount of times versus the first time. But yeah, I don't know. And then super heavy. This one's probably comes down to, you know, the biggest storyline. I don't know how it plays out, but the biggest storyline is potentially seeing Gabby Pisagna and Tayani Porfirio run it back again. So obviously Gabby submitted Tayani in the absolute right at Brasileiros, but then Tayani came back, beat Gabby in the divisional finals. And so we'll probably see both these girls mix it up as well again.
If you're Tayani, do you do the absolute?
Got to, dude.
You think so?
Well, yeah, why not?
Do you hold everything for the weight class, knowing that this is like you picked up that one win? If Gabby's able to come in here and beat Tayani twice, a lot of people are going to be like, okay, that was a bump in the road, no big deal. But if Tayani's able to win this, I think it redefines Tayani's career at least, And so I think that there would be, if I was in her camp, I think there would be a discussion to be had around like, what is our focus here? What is our goal here?
Yeah. I think there's an aspect where, like, I mean, I don't know Tayani that well or what she thinks or stuff, but like, it's kind of like, I don't necessarily think she would run from it. And there's the other flip side of that kind of same thinking is, I mean, she did end with beating Gabby. So now it's like, if she decides like, well, I'll just come out and beat her in the absolute and in the division, that really solidifies Tayani as like, oh, damn. All right. Tayani wasn't kidding around. Her comeback was legit. She's probably the best female gi grappler in the world now. So yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends on her perspective on it and everything. But either way, I think it'll be sick watching them run it back and everything. Sure. Any other final thoughts on this world championship?
Can I shout out one brown belt fight that I think everybody needs to make sure that they watch?
Sure.
That we're pretty much guaranteed to brown belt.
The Joey Gilbs guarantee.
Brown belt female middleweight Helena Cravar versus Lillian Marchand. Got to tune in for that. Got to tune in for that.
That hits. That'll be sick.
Yeah, really excited to see Sarah Galvao as well. She's somebody we've been watching all year, and definitely this is a big moment for her. We'll probably see some of these guys and girls who win get promoted to black belt or brown belt. So you see a lot of promotions this weekend, so that's something we'll be keeping an eye on as well. But yeah, just can't wait to get out there. Can't wait to start the road trip, and let us know if you see us. Say what's up, and tell us what your favorite Worlds memory is. We want to hear it. But yeah, we got a lot 10 days to go now till World Championship, so let's go.
Yeah, and depending on your response and which Road to Worlds episodes you prefer, maybe I'll put you in one of them. If you want to tell me and you have the right answer, like maybe I'll film you saying that and put it in one of them. So I'm just saying, I'm not trying to sway the public opinion or anything, but yeah, so super stoked for this. Keep your eyes out for the Road to Worlds this year. We'll be road trip. It's going to be a good time. Ultimately, then it's going to end at the Walter Pyramid, where we're going to be there at the World Championship from May 29th to the 1st. Super stoked for it. And then, don't forget about Who's Number 128 coming up June 13th. A lot of good jiu-jitsu on the horizon. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode, and we'll see you in the next one.